Hi everyone, my name is Benjamin Nowak, and I'm the host of this vlog. I'm going to be posting 3 videos a week, once on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so be sure to stay posted throughout the week for new videos and updates. In this first video I want to talk to you about crankbait fishing, my favorite way to fish, and hopefully I'll be able to provide you with some tips, tricks, and techniques that'll help you put more fish into the boat. In this video I'll actually talk about the techniques used to catch fish. All the crankbaits I'm talking about are from 6th Sense lures, but rather than talk about the characteristics or models of the bait, I'm talking about the techniques. So if you have questions about the baits, feel free to send me a message or comment below and I'll respond as quickly as possible. But with that, let's get started. First category of baits I want to talk about are the monster lures. These are your extra deep diving crankbaits and those that dive deeper than 20 feet. Now these require very specialized equipment from your lines to rods and reels. One thing to keep in consideration is these are huge baits, so you have to be cognizant of the equipment you use. These are designed to run down to 27 foot on 10 pound test, but unless you're willing to lose your lure to every stick, weed, Loch Ness monster at the bottom of your lake, I would throw it on 14 to 16 pound test, so that way when big old Loch Ness bites, you can get your lure back. Again, like I said, I don't throw it on anything less than 14 pound test. I think it's unreasonable to throw it on anything less than that. You have to be able to not only make the cast out to your spot, but be able to reel the bait in and get that fish turning your way with a hook set when he bites. So nothing less than 14 to 16 pound test on these monster lures. I also throw it on a heavy rod. It's a 7'6" medium heavy fast action rod. I think that's critical because you need a rod with all that backbone and length to be able to get that lure moving, to get a good hook set, especially when you're fishing it down 20 foot of water. And again, I joke around about these being monster lures. They're really not that big. I've caught fish as small as 8 or 9 inches on these baits, so don't be afraid to throw them wherever you think the fish are. Now finally, one thing to keep in mind, when you're fishing a bait down that deep, there's not a lot of light penetration, so I like to fish a bait that has a rattle in it. As you can hear, this bait has an extremely loud rattle, and I think that helps draw fish into this bait and helps them locate this bait even if they're not able to see it that well. It also has a big wide coffin lip, which is also on the 300 DD model, which helps this bait deflect off cover really well and help you not get hung up. So hopefully you won't have to use that 16 pound test to get this unhung, but chances are if you're fishing a big bait like this, that 16 pound test is going to come in handy when you hook into a tree down there, or a 8 pound bass. Next type of lure I want to talk about are standard deep divers. These are baits that dive between 12 and 19 foot. I personally love these baits. 95% of the time, if you see me deep cranking, I'm throwing one of these 300 DDs. These baits are awesome because, like I mentioned, that coffin-shaped bill that 6th Sense has helps it deflect off cover really well, and has a really unique wobble and action under the water. It also has a loud rattle again, which I really like because that draws in fish from a long ways to come and get this bait. One thing I tend to do, I switch out the hooks. I leave the standard round bend treble hook in the back, but I'll put an EWG treble hook in the front. If they're really choking this bait, the EWG hook, they'll bite it and they'll never be able to let go. Woo! I almost wasn't able to let go, it almost hit my foot. But I do like to throw this on a little bit heavier action rod. I throw it on a 7'3" medium heavy power moderate action rod. Moderate action rod's important because it takes that leverage away from the fish when they get hooked and try to head shake. Being able to keep these fish hooked up is obviously the most critical part, so that moderate action rod helps you get those fish hooked, or keep those fish hooked and get them into the boat. I like it. My favorite colors are this chartreuse pearl color, which is chartreuse and a blue back, but it's all muted. It looks faded. It's awesome color. Or the shad flasher, which is gold with a blue back. Those are my two favorite colors. in these baits as well as all the other baits I'm going to show you. And I typically throw these on 12 to 14 pound test. Typically 12 feet if I'm trying to get it deeper in the water column, or 14 pound test if I'm trying to get it to like 15 foot. But I'll fish these anywhere from, I'd say probably 10 to 18 foot of water. I love these baits. These are my go-to diving crankbaits. Now here's your iconic medium diver. I consider these search baits. These are what I use when I'm fishing any depth between like 6 to 11 foot of water. What I like about these baits, they have a little bit narrower bill, and that'll help keep this bait from kicking out and rolling on you, especially when you're using a higher speed ratio reel like a 6-4 to 1 or even a 7-1 to 1 at times. Like I said, I like to use these as search baits. They help me locate fish and locate the depth that fish are hanging in. And I can change it up by changing my line size. Typically I'll throw it on 12 pound test, which will get it down to about 10 foot deep, which is where I want this bait, 9-10 foot deep 95% of the time. Most medium diving crankbaits for me are mainly just used as search baits. Unless I locate them on a key depth, let's say they're at 10 foot, they won't touch anything but a crankbait, then I'll keep throwing it throughout the day, but otherwise I really like them as a search bait. I'll throw these on either 7.3 medium heavy action moderate, or medium heavy moderate action rod, or a 7 foot medium heavy moderate action rod. Either way, I like both models to get those fish to the boat with that bait. Now we get into one of my other favorite ways to fish, and that's square bill fishing. I throw square bills a lot. There's a lot of laydowns and cover around me, as well as submerged grass. A lot of people are afraid to throw square bills around grass because they're afraid it'll get hung up. But one thing about these 6 cents lures crankbaits is they have that really narrow lip. And this is their 50X and 50S. One's a silent model, one's the rattling model. Now, these narrow lips not only help this come through grass well, it gives it a unique deflection off cover, or timber, or rocks, or whatever you want to call it. And I think that triggers more strikes than the normal large bill, square bill, or whatever you want to call it. I also like the small size. A lot of people throw that 2.5 size and they'll get bit, but I feel like I get more bites as well as more quality bites matching the hatch with these baits. I'll throw these on 15 to 17 pound test. A lot of times I'm only trying to get this bait 2 to 5 foot deep, so I can control that by changing my line size. But I like that heavier pound test so I can get those fish out of cover when they get stuck there. Now this is one of my go-to baits when I'm fishing shallow. This is a Crush 75X flat, and this is like your 2.5 inch crankbait, but it has a flat side, or it has flat sides, so that gives it a unique tight wobble, and it also gives it a unique sound and deflection properties. So when this bait hits cover and comes back off, it kind of deflects differently and moves differently through the water column. It's a unique bait. Gives fish a look that they don't typically see with a standard round body 2.5 model crankbait. This also has that narrow lip that I talked about with the 50S, and that helps it come through grass and cover well, and kind of gives it again a unique action underwater. But what I like most, and one unique feature I think this bait has, is it has a one knocker sound. So if you can hear that, this bait has a really loud one knocker unique action, or excuse me, really loud one knocker sound that gives it a unique sound to draw fish in, as opposed to standard crankbaits on the market today. That's one thing 6 Cents is really good about, is coming out with different sounding crankbaits that'll draw fish in, not only out of curiosity, with their custom paint jobs and their unique actions. So this bait is a winner for me. I love this bait. And now, here are the secret baits from 6 Cents. And these are what I want to call grass fishing crankbaits, if that makes any sense at all. Hopefully it will in a couple minutes. These are baits I throw around shallow grass, submerged grass that comes up to about 3 foot from the top of the surface. The bait I want to talk about first is the flagship bait for 6 Cents lures. This is the Movement 80X, brand new for this year. And if you look at it, it almost has what I would call a wake bait style bill. What that allows the bait to do is dive down to about 3 foot, and then the hooks will start to get buried in the grass, and then you rip it free, almost like a trap. And when that bait rips free, and those fish see it come up, they smoke it. And this bait produced really well for me in the fall, especially because it has a really wide tail wobble. So as opposed to a standard square bill that tends to have the weight forward in the bait, this weight is here at the back, and it gives it a really wide action and hunting action, which works great in the fall and summer. And I'll throw this on 17 to 20 pound test on a 7.3 medium heavy action rod, and that'll give me the power to rip that bait out of the grass, trigger those strikes. But the other bait, and this is my favorite bait that 6 Sense makes, is the Swank 77X. Brand new on the market, just released a few weeks ago. This bait has an incredible action, incredible purpose, and there's nothing else like this bait on the market. As you can see, it has that L bill, so what that allows the bait to do is it'll dive down to about 3 foot, and instead of diving nose down like this, it wants to run straight. It wants to run horizontal. What that allows it to do is those hooks hang below the bait,